Hello student. The next chapter of this paper third is that is aspects of human reproduction, and this human reproduction is mostly important for the learners, that is the students, with the different aspects of the human with to make their aware and causes of the infertility, techniques to overcome infertility, and the concept of the birth control. Because you know now it is the younger peoples, they don't have a this how to differentiate the aspects of human reproduction, and there is so many type of these causes in the infertility, so that we have to so many types of in techniques, and these techniques can be utilized for their overcome activity, and the students will be able to understand the human reproductive physiology, will become familiar with advances in the ART and the related the ethical issues, so that this method is important for their reproduction. So that we are going to start this one by one topics on this human reproduction. As you know, the humans are sexually reproducing the organisms, and they show uh, internal fertilization and are viviparous. That is, it gives birth to live young ones. That is, male and females have strikingly different reproductive systems, which are concerned primarily with production of gametes and perpetuation of the human species. The important events in human reproduction include the sexual maturation at puberty, a period of fertility, and the important events is followed by a gradual reproductive decline, and the major events during the reproductive period include the gametogenesis. This gametogenesis, that is formation of haploid male gametes, that is sperms, and female gametes, ovum, and the copulation and the transfer of sperms into the female reproductive tract, followed by the fertilization leading to the formation of a diploid zygote. And these formation of haploid gametes, sperms and ovum, copulation of the sperms into the female reproductive tract, followed by the fertilization, and that is known as the fertilization. So this human reproduction is depend upon the male and female, and the both sexes have reproductive organs called the genitals or genitalia, and it designed for the purpose of the intercourse and the conception of the fertilization. And in the female reproductive system, and the organs are for intercourse, the reproduction, urinations, प्रेग्नन्सी अँड चाइल्ड बर्थ. म्हणजे फिमेल रिप्रोडक्टिव्ह सिस्टीम हे यासाठी मेनली उपयोगात येते, म्हणजे इंटरकोर्स, रिप्रोडक्शन, युरिनेशन, प्रेग्नन्सी अँड चाइल्ड बर्थ. यू कॅन सी दिस इज द इंटरनल female anatomy of this human reproduction. You can observe this ova, how they are cervix, uterus, rectum, then ligaments and the fallopian tubes, and through their fallopian tubes the sperms they are enters in the cervix with the permission of their zona pellucida, and it forms their zygote with female and female, that is ovum and sperm, and it attached with their the implantation of their process naturally. So you can see this is the front view of this this female reproductive system, and you can see this fallopian tube, cervix, and vagina, endometrium, ovary, and the uterus. With their these cervix and the fallopian tubes, they are helpful to reach the sperm in the uterus, and when then they are start to develop their embryonic stages. Now this ovaries, how it look like, the structure of this ovary. It is a two slide egg shaped structures, and they are attached to the uterus by ligaments. They are the counterpart of the male testicles. Ovaries have two main functions. First, store and release the ova or female egg cells, and some of the ova disappear, others are dormant until each is ripened and released after the puberty. And second function is that it produces the female sex hormone estrogen and the progesterone. You can say this ova, the sorry, the female reproductive cell, they are the largest cells in the female body, and the female baby is born with all the ova, and she will ever have about 2 lakhs in each ovary. About 400 to 500 ova mature and are released over lifetimes. Estrogen is responsible for the secondary sex characteristics and the sex drive in females, and it spurs the onset of puberty and is responsible for the ovulation. The progesterone builds up the lining of the uterus called the endometrium in preparation for the fertilized ovum. And the ovulation is the eggs is released from the ovary at the age of the puberty, and the ovum to the surface of the ovary in burst out. The ova falls into the fallopian tube and waits for the fertilization, and this happens every 28 days. It happens at about the 14th day of the cycle. The fallopian tubes, that is the oviducts, the two tubes attached on their either side of the uterus, they are about 4 inches long and 3 to 16 inch in diameter, and the size of a cook spaghetti noodles, and the oviduct carry egg cells towards the uterus and sperm cell towards the egg cell, and then the fertilization takes place in the upper third of the oviduct. The uterus and cervix, it is one of the hollow muscular organ. Uterus is lined with the endometrium in the blood lining, and the uterus has one main function: to protect and nourish a fetus. The wall of the uterus have the ability to stretch to the size of a small watermelon. After childbirth, the uterus shrinks back to the original shape in 6 to 8 weeks, but it can take up to 9 months for the uterus to fully recover. See, this cervix is the neck or opening of the uterus. A normal healthy cervix is the strongest muscles in the body, and it dips down about half an inch into the vagina, and it is normally plugged by mucus, and it stays tightly closed during pregnancy but thins opens for the delivery of the baby. How big does it need to dilate to the birth? The vagina, the female organ used for intercourse, it is an empty passageway leading from the vaginal opening to the uterus. It is only 3 to 4 inches long but will stay length during arousal, and the vaginal walls are made up of many small folds membrane that stays greatly to accommodate a baby during the birth. And the vaginal wall also secrete a fluid that helps to make intercourse easier. युरेथ्रा म्हणजे आपण त्याला मूत्राशय म्हणतो, ते ब्लॅडरपासून ओपनिंग होत असते त्याचं. क्लायटोरिस जर बघितलं तर क्रायटोलस इट इज वन ऑफ द स्मॉल पी शेप पंप at the front of the labia, and it contains a small amount of erectile tissue. The clitoris increases sexual intercourse. The women's cycle is first day the menstruation begins, that is bleeding. Day 5 menstruation usually ended. Ovum has matured and burst out of the ovary. And day 15 after 24 the egg is done in the absence of fertilization. Estrogen progesterone levels drop and the endometrial lining breaks down. The menstruation begins again started. So you can see the age limits. The secondary sex characteristics appear 9 to 12. Ages 11 to 14 menstrual cycle begins. Late 20 to 30 peak sexual urge. 45 to 50 menopause cycle stop but sex urge continues. So this is about the female reproductive system.